Good morning, Millie.
Good
Thank you for
morning.
hanging in there with me this morning. I think I got it now.
I think we should let your listeners know that this is the fourth take because of sound
Yeah.
quality freezing.
Yeah, we've had some issues early in the morning this morning. So we're here to talk about life dreams, life purpose, kind of how it drives your life, your decisions, and well, I think also about uncovering it. You want to introduce yourself and
Yeah.
about what you do?
Yeah. So my name is Millie, Milli Huser, and I am what I do is I coach, I train, and I consult. Who I am is I like I shared with you before, I'm the light that illuminates the way, the path for others to find their way. So there's a difference between what I do and who I am. And it's important to me to distinguish those two things.
I really agree. That's become central to my way of life too. Try to be who I am and then do. I was a workaholic for a number of years, so I was really caught up in the do, and the have. And now here we are practicing being something. So, are you living your dream life, do you think?
It's funny. I was thinking about this the other day, and I am living the dream that I had in the past, if that makes sense. So I dreamed about this in the past, and now the dream has evolved. So when people ask me, am I living my dream life? I'm like, well, yeah, based on the dream that I had maybe 3 or 4 years ago, this is exactly where I dreamt I would be. And now I have a dream that has evolved to add things to it. Um, so there's this new dream, and the old dream's still there, but I don't know that there's ever going to be a time where I sit and go, oh, I'm just going to live my lead dream life, and now just can like hang here and do, I don't know what people would do. And
Yeah,
that's like I'd be so lost.
yeah,
So in a way, yeah, I'm definitely living my dream life, and I still have dreams to be fulfilled.
yeah. I think that having a dream, I agree, having a dream and then taking small steps to create that dream and building on successes and adding to the dream and expanding, letting it expand and create new direction in life for you. I
Yeah.
think that's exciting. I think that's what makes life exciting.
It does. And if you think about it, like I couldn't even have imagined some of the dreams I have today were not even the realm of possibility in my mind
Hmm.
10 years ago, 20
Yeah.
years ago for sure. Like I was not raised as the light.
No.
My parents were fine people, but I was not raised to be the light that illuminates the path for others. And
Yeah.
so that wasn't even, I mean, I had some small inclination that there was something that I had, like some desire that I had that wasn't fulfilled in life, but I never dreamt that I'd have this life 20 years ago. And then, like you said, like I'd say failures too. So there was little successes that happened and some major
Yeah.
failures that happened that opened up possibilities to new things. And
Yeah.
so when one door would close, it was like some other door would open. And then as I began to navigate through those doors, new possibilities opened, and I would see things differently than I had seen them before. So I mean, I remember, gosh, the first time. You don't mind if I share a story about the first time that I
Oh, absolutely.
uh, consciously did this,
Hmm.
dreamt, and then made it happen? I call
Yeah.
it manifestation. Prior to that, I'm sure I did it, but I didn't know I was doing it. It was like things would happen and be like, how did this happen? And then there was a point when I was probably 2013 where it was 2000, it was June of 2013 where I really became aware that I could do it and that it was possible. I had been on vacation here in South Florida. I lived in Missouri, and my mom was on hospice, and she was a long hospice. It was very drawn out, and I was very exhausted. And I had some girlfriends of mine who really convinced me that I could take a vacation. Like I needed a vacation, not just
Yeah.
that but I needed one. So I came to Miami, which I love Miami, always had. Never thought I could live in Miami. Like it was like people from the Midwest didn't move to Miami. You vacationed in Miami, but you had to live in the Midwest.
Yeah.
And I remember swimming, and we were going to go catch, my husband and I were at the pool. We were going to catch a plane later in the day. And I swam over to him and I said, I don't want to live in the Midwest anymore. Like I want to live where it's warm. I want to live here. And then I remember thinking, well, I couldn't possibly make it here. Maybe like Jacksonville, Florida. And my husband said, he's a very wise man. He said, we'll put it out to God or the universe, whatever you call it, and start taking an action. Just take an action. And I was like, okay. So that's what I did. I went, I prayed about it, and then I started telling people, like, I want to move to Florida, and I said a year, and the next year, and people like, oh, that's so cute, And then I was like, oh no, I want to move to Florida in a year, and I started like thinking in that way and moving in that direction, and really like own that I was going to live in Florida, and I really wanted to live in South Florida, but I still kind of had this questioning of myself if it was possible. I didn't have any family members that lived south of Jacksonville, by the way. And then, ironically, not so ironically, my husband was doing the same. He was at work saying to people, I want to move to Florida, I want to move to Florida. And his boss walks in one day and says, hey, they're looking for people in Pompano, Florida, which is South Florida. Do you want to go down and do a job interview? And he came down here and worked for a month, and they offered him a job in December. I remember it was like December 12th or something, and it was snowing. We had like 9 inches of snow, and I don't know how many days the kids missed school. He's on the pier out here drinking coffee. I'm at home with 3 kids and frozen in. And I was like, he's like, what do you think we should do? And I said, we're moving. And the thing about it was, it wasn't like it was all like quick. It was actually like things would come in the way, but I was certain I was moving. I had a certainty this is what I wanted. And then I was able to like move those things to the side and move forward, or I was able to negotiate things and shift. And, like my ex-husband decided I couldn't take my daughter out of the state. And so my husband was working here. I resigned from my job, sold my house. And so I'm like, what am I going to do? So literally I was like, all right, you know what? You're going to keep her as a full-time father for a while. And he did for 5 years. He was the full-time father. And the weird part about that is that during that time, I used that as a time to grow myself as a trainer and a consultant. I quit my job. I doubled down on everything because I knew that time period was in some way like a gift to me, because my daughter has disabilities that require a lot of energy, and he was willing to do that. And then I had this time and energy that I could apply to other things that I wouldn't had she been with me. And I didn't want to waste that time, because it was like, to me, it was such a sacrifice for me and for her and for her dad, that I needed to use the best of that time. But it was like weird things that, like, I got my house sold on the first day, by the way, first day I put on the market. I found a place here and a job in the same day. It was the first time I was conscious that I was choosing and that I was making it happen, and I was at cause of it rather than being an effect of it. Yeah. And it was literally one of the most pivotal points in my life. I mean, I have a couple before that, but this was the one where I was completely aware that I was the one that was making it happen. Now, of course, I had resources. I had my husband. I had my God consciousness. I had my friends. I had my ex-husband. I couldn't have done it without those people, but I got that I was making it. I was the catalyst in it. And that was such a cool experience.
Yeah, those experiences really are. And did you find that you were, like, in making the decision to let your daughter live with your ex-husband, did you find that that was a decision you wouldn't have made even 6 months before that or a year before that?
It never even came into my consciousness. Never once did I think that it was. Here's the crazy part about it. Never once did I even explore the idea of her living with her dad. Yeah. And when she moved in with him, it turned out that the school district he lived in was part of a larger global school district called Special School District. And it was a school district it wasn't part of the school. It had a standalone. And so none of the services could be pulled from a kid with special needs. And that school he went to, as where I lived, they had mediocre services. Yeah. We never explored his address because it was just it wasn't something I could have even ever imagined. But she got so many more services living with him than she would have living in my address. Yeah. It was crazy.
I'm a firm believer that when I make a decision that's right for me, those types of evidences come after the fact, and that just kind of confirms that if it's right for me, it's right for the other people in my life too. Even if at first it's like, are you crazy?
Yeah, it
What
was
are you
totally,
doing? Where'd
it
that
was
idea come from?
I remember sitting at Starbucks across from him, and I had my notebook and pen because we were going to write
Yeah,
the new plan. And he said,
yeah,
"I'm not going to do it." And I was so mad. I was like, I had saved all this money to move, and I was like, "I'm
yeah,
going to use every penny of it to sue you." I was like cussing him out in Starbucks.
yeah, yeah,
And then I talked to a spiritual advisor, and she said, "You know, Millie, you wouldn't be the worst thing that you've ever done.
yeah,
Your daughter is going
yeah,
to be with you for a long time. She's not
yeah,
like there's not that atypical life with her. So stop trying to be atypical.
yeah,
Like her life looks different than your other kids." And it was like, oh,
yeah,
that's what. And I had to there's a lot of stuff I had to overcome, like bad mom. Like I had to
mm-hmm,
really get like okay with there are people out in the world who think I'm crazy and can never understand why I would ever not fight or stay, leave my husband, stay in Missouri, like all of these things that people
yeah,
that I thought was going to happen. I had to really get okay with if those things happen, I'm just going to have to be okay with it.
yeah.
People's opinions can't affect me.
And I found, I don't know if you have, that those kinds of beginning places that impact me so much, and like it sounds like with you, they start to uncover my real purpose. And it deepens my sense of where do I go next, even though it might not have been clear at that moment. For you,
100%.
yeah,
100%. Because when I wasn't hyper focused on everything that she needed, when
yeah,
I was able to like, he took over the basic care of her. So like things that I spent a lot of energy on, I had this new opening. And I had been a mom since I was 19. So I didn't
yeah,
really have like a concept of what life was not. And when I mean a mom, I mean like I'm still a mom, but like
right,
from the time my feet hit the floor until they went to bed at night, my thoughts were always of what am I going to do with my kids? And at
yeah,
the time I moved, she was 13 and she moved in with her father. My son was 17 and he moved here with me, and my other son was in college. And then my two bonus children were in one was in college and one was living with her mom. And so like it was the first time in my life like I didn't like I was responsible for their parenting and their well-being and things like that, but my feet hit the floor and there wasn't that like, oh my God, what am like, I got to get her up. I got to get her dressed. I got to get her this. And I had all this space. And I was like, for a while, I felt lost for a moment. I felt a little
mm-hmm,
lost.
mm-hmm,
And then I got really clear that I had this bigger purpose in me that wasn't being fully expressed. And
yeah,
it just started that space that was created, things started coming in. I started noticing that people listened to me. It
mm-hmm,
was really weird. Like I had an authority that I didn't understand where it came from. Now I understand that some of that authority comes from my life experiences. I have so
right,
many that people are like, wow, if you can survive all that, I
yeah,
should probably listen to you. Um, yeah, but I didn't realize that people listened to me and that I was a leader. I knew I could help people because I had been doing that for years, but I didn't realize how much I could actually help them because I was exhausted most of the time.
yeah, yeah. And then you use that space and just kind of jumped in. And were you aware of a dream outside of wanting to live in Miami? Where did
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah, even when I was a little girl, I wanted to be a nun. I wanted to always. It was weird. I always wanted to be in a place where I helped people. I people
mm-hmm,
have people find their way. I, at some level, always knew there was something. And then I became a drug counselor. I counseled people
mm-hmm,
for years. Then did family counseling, and then I led teams of people in nonprofits. And I really knew that there was like there in those jobs and those things that I did. I always knew that I was not a worker bee. I mean, I was just, my boss used to say, "You're not a worker bee," but people like listening to you, like people like being in a relationship with you. So that was something I knew that I had it in me to do that stuff, but I didn't really understand that as a purpose. I thought that was just a talent that I had. It wasn't really yet connected to a global purpose. It was more of a
mm-hmm,
like, well, this is a talent I have, so I use it in order to help people. And then there was a point where I got that like people really don't. Some people live their most of their life. I don't know what happens at the end, but a lot of people live most of their life not understanding who they are.
Mm-hmm.
not really clear on their purpose, their why they were here, and they spend a lot of times doing things that are not healthy for them.
Right.
And when I really got clear about that, I was like, everything made sense, even from like working with people addictions. The ones that got better are the ones that had a hope for the future. uh,
Yeah.
when my parents died, when my mom and my bonus dad, both of them died in hospice, I realized that both of them didn't experience most of their life. They didn't have this feeling that they had a purpose.
Yeah.
And so, like, they were unclear. And I thought, well, if people are clear and that they know where they're going and why they're doing it, there's a level of, you talked about it in the beginning, there's this level of like intensity and urgency and this passion that gets ignited.
Uh,
And the more you clear you get on that, the bigger that is. And I think that most people wouldn't engage in a lot of behaviors if they really felt they were living in their dream life, their purpose.
I agree 100%. And I think also uh, even when you feel like you're living a life of values or a good life, like I had a good life working, and yet when I stepped away from it and left it behind, I realized it wasn't my purpose. I was acting as if it was my purpose, trying to make it fit my purpose, and it wasn't. And it was a lot about security and different things for me. So I think once you do uncover that spark, do you think a lot of people are kind of afraid to let themselves have that spark, to let themselves dream because they've been, beat up in their mind or
I mean,
thought, oh, I,
that
yeah,
was me. I mean, I think that I had such disappointments in my life from
yeah,
early childhood, even like the whole nun thing. Like, my mom didn't want me to be one, so I couldn't be one. Uh,
yeah,
it's like, I wasn't Catholic, like that's such a small barrier today thinking about that. Like, I came from a completely Catholic family. I'm the only non-Catholic in that whole family,
yeah,
like
yeah,
I was Lutheran. How close, that's like a stone's throw from Catholicism.
yeah,
But she was adamant I couldn't be. And so that was the first like real disappointment that I mean, there were so many disappointments, but that was the one that I remember thinking that no, I don't have choice. Like, I don't have the
yeah,
choice.
yeah,
And I'm like you, like I spent a lot of years doing a lot of great work and
yeah,
meaningful work. It just, I wasn't clear on why I was doing it. And
yeah,
because I wasn't clear on why I was doing it, it didn't fulfill it didn't I didn't have the experience of fulfillment. And I worked like a dog, like you're saying. I mean, I remember working
yeah,
so many hours and feeling like I had to, because if I didn't do it, nobody else would. And really,
yeah,
what it was is I was so lost that I couldn't. I thought you had to work like that in order to get recognition.
yeah,
I was afraid to be forgotten.
yeah,
I was so many things working, and I think most human beings are afraid of how powerful they really are, because if they
hmm,
really got that, the level of disappointment goes up. So I
yeah,
have this kind of joke. I'm a worrier. I don't know if you know that about me. Most people don't know it because
yeah.
I'm a very undercover worrier.
Okay. Yeah, no,
But
I wouldn't know that.
no, I worry a lot about things.
Yeah.
I have waves of impending doom
Mhm.
that I don't know where they come from, and I can't explain them. They just come from nowhere, and there could be everything's right, but I still have this sense. And I used to fight it, fight it, fight it, fight it. But recently, I realized that if it's gonna be there, why
Yeah.
not be about something important like world peace? Why not? Why am I having it about whether my dog goes potty this morning or on the floor, inside or out? Like, I would like think that was the end of the world, and that is not the end of the world. So why
Yeah.
not have the end of the world be what I actually worry about? So I'm one of those nuts who's like, yeah, world peace is possible in my lifetime.
Yeah.
And it comes from people living their life, their true authentic life purpose,
Yeah.
not what their Bible told them or the Quran told them or the Torah told them, not what their parents told them, not what their teachers told them, not what I was told as a kid, like you can only live in, within 100 miles of your family,
Yeah. Yeah.
like all of those things that we're the should haves, the musts that we were put into, into our lives, that we had to live this way or else. When people can break free from that and they really go to who they actually are, most human beings, I would say, are innately good.
Mhm.
They're innately come from the best parts of God, if you want to call it that. Like, they're we're at one with God. We are. we have the good in us.
Yeah.
Um, and when we can break free from that egoic, fear-based lifestyle, then we wouldn't want to cause harm to another person. War would end.
Yeah. And that energy to create kind of comes. You're an entrepreneur, so you've
Mhm.
created that. And even the create the move from Missouri to Florida, and that energy just starts to come forward and take over. And
Yeah, it has the energy. Every project I do, I'm a big fan of Alan Seeley. Every project that I do, everything that I'm working on has a energy of its own. And when I align my energy with that energy, there's so much more possible than I'm aware of. Like you said, the move to Florida. Like I only thought it was possible to move to Jacksonville. Like I
yeah,
laugh at that today, because that's the farthest my consciousness could take me. And then
yeah,
today I'm like, I could live anywhere in the world. I could live in another country. I could live anywhere I want to live. It's always possible if I'm willing to do the work around it.
yeah,
And so that new level of, and it takes an energy of its own once you surrender to your projects. And I don't mean like resign to them, but surrender to your
yeah.
purpose. So like your purpose, if I hope I'm going to get this right, or you tell me, what is your purpose?
To build connections that create authenticity, trust, and joy,
Yeah,
basically, is where I'm at now.
that's beautiful. So
Thank you.
every time you surrender to that, you surrender, like you give yourself to that purpose, you're
Hmm.
going to see things in your life that weren't there.
Yeah,
Like possibilities, opportunities, things begin to open up that you have no idea were there because that's what you're surrendered all into.
yeah,
And it may take different shapes and form than what you thought going into it because
absolutely.
you didn't have the consciousness, like you didn't have the mind to see what it was.
Yeah,
And then you get into it and you're like, oh my gosh, there's so much more possible here
yeah,
than what I would think, like my finite mind can never understand an infinite being.
yeah. And I love that you view yourself as a pathway for others, the light that lights the pathway for others. Uh, because I find that in my life, I really want to impact people sometimes, or get their energy up, like connect to your purpose, connect to your dream. And so many, I don't want to say so many, but some of my friends feel like, oh, I'm too old now. I'm too, uh, I left that behind, all that. And it's kind of like, no, there's so much more.
Well, you're a bit of a Midwestern, not maybe Midwest, but
Yeah, I am.
you're the middle of the country. And so I had this
Yeah.
thought that one day where I was like, I'm too old, I'm too white, I'm too Midwestern,
Yeah.
I'm too middle class, I'm too, like I had all of these like bland thoughts and I was
Yeah.
like, why would anyone want to listen to me? Like I
Yeah.
have this whole I'm too mommy like I had all these
Yeah.
things that kind of like, and then I just laughed and I was like, you know what? That's not that's me thinking of me.
Yeah.
And it's hard to not do that at times because
Yeah.
there's a, well, the saying, I'm not much but I'm all I think about.
Yeah, I do. I do. And it's true. And I like thinking about it in a bigger way if I'm going
Yeah.
to think about me, because the old me was pretty tiresome.
Yeah, listen, like I said, if I'm gonna be stressed out, it should be over like creating world peace. And I
Yeah.
have three nonprofits that I want to make enough money to fund myself
Yeah.
versus seeking funding for. And so that's millions of dollars that I get to fund these things, which means I get to
Yeah.
figure out how to generate that kind of cash flow so that I can get it into the quantum field, if no other
Yeah.
term really for it. And
Yeah.
so when I think about being, in my ego and all like stressed out about something, let me be stressed out about that,
Yeah.
not about the simple things in life, because I tend to be a high stress person. I mean, like I actually flow very well in the high stress impending
Yeah.
doom place because I think it just is. I'm assuming it has to do with childhood stuff that I had to
Yeah.
survive. And so I'll continue to work on that and I'll continue
Yeah.
to evolve as a human being. But in this moment, if it shows up, rather than trying to fight it, I harness that stuff.
Yeah.
I harness that energy and apply it to
Yeah.
something I really, really want instead
Yeah.
of things that don't really matter that much to me. So
Yeah.
it supports it, whatever you're working with. if you're vision driven, whatever comes your way, whether it's a child with disabilities or different abilities, or whether it's, I have a son who's gay. I have a a husband who had lung cancer. I'm a recovered alcoholic. I mean, all of these things that happen that other people are like, that's the worst thing that could ever happen. And my vision and my dream life, those things become part of my purpose.
Yeah.
They don't take me
There's,
away from it. They actually narrow it in.
yeah, I can agree. 100%. I share several of those same issues, and they deepen your sense of being alive and being connected. When you come out of them, when you're in the middle of it, it's like, no, no,
Oh, it's
I don't want
the
this.
worst.
Yeah, yeah,
That's where community comes in.
yeah, I
Like
think so.
being part of a community of people like you and I are part of communities together, multiple communities actually,
Yeah,
that support when I'm in those places, that it's not that I don't make them the end of the world, but I say to myself, okay, so that's happening.
yeah,
And life doesn't stop for those things.
right. And I really like the connection that you made between having a dream, wanting to manifest that dream or create it, however you want to term you want to use. But there's things that you do, you don't just sit back and say, oh yeah, it's going to happen. Yeah. There's
Yeah.
still, but the doing is driven by the something bigger than you, if you want to say it that way, or your purpose or your dream. It's driven by that instead of um, earning, like I was for a long time
Yeah.
driven. And I thought my purpose came from my achievement, I think. And I wasn't fulfilled either, although achievement's a wonderful thing. So to wrap up, thank you so much for your time. Is there any tips that you have for our audience on
Hmm.
finding their purpose or their dream or living it or going for it?
I would say take actions. You said something really important. It's like you want to take action, and it doesn't have to be big, just
Mm-hmm.
something that's like here's my vision, my purpose, this is what I'm committed to, like my purpose in life. Take an action towards it, and then see what opens up. Like
Yeah,
be willing to evolve as it opens up, but committed action is important.
yeah,
It's not like I have yet know anyone owe himself anything to existence. So even my husband and I took action, we started talking to people when
right.
we wanted to move. So take an action. It's and make it quick. Not don't make it like, oh, I'm gonna, over the next week I'm gonna. If you want to write a book, like write a page today, not
Yeah,
in a week. Write a page today. Do whatever it takes to move yourself, because that little bit of bump, every time you take an action towards your purpose becomes clearer. You're
yeah,
energized. Your experience of yourself shifts. So and be conscious and aware that you're doing it while you're doing it.
yeah. I love that. That's a wonderful prescription.
Good.
How does our audience find you, Millie?
Yeah, you can find me at on Facebook at Milli Huser. You can find me at mymillicentuser.com. And I'm sure you and I will do something again, Vicki.
Yeah,
Make sure that you let me know if there's anything I can do to support you in this. I love this podcast. I think it's fantastic.
thank you. I'm having fun with it. I think well, I want to build connection. And to me, it's a wonderful way to do that and share that connection with other people that may think, oh, yeah, I never thought of it that way. I wouldn't have thought of it that way until I heard somebody else say it. So I think that's really important in life. And as I say goodbye on this podcast, I want to say you can find me on Facebook at vickidawn Coach. And my website is www.vickidawn.com. And you can find me there. And until next time, live your dream life.